Medically speaking, miracles are often considered as highly improbable occurrence. Okay? Where a disease or health-related occurrence appears without conventional treatments. So you may not have any scientific explanation for what has actually taken place. Medical miracle can also be considered as a realm of unexpected recoveries that physicians or medical experts find near impossible to believe. It is true that there are real miracles. It's also true that you will also have good documentation of these events. But it's also important for us to know that for a medical or a miracle to be verified as true in the Catholic Church, especially in relation to the process of canonization, it must go through medical certification. And what is medical certification in relation to the Church? It relates to processes that are set up by the Catholic Church to investigate one and also to validate claims relating to miraculous claims. So you could say that medical miracles are actually miraculous claims. There are quite a number of them. And there are very, very strict criteria that have been established by the Church to be able to come up with that certification. Historically speaking, there have been reported cases of miracles within the Church. And the Church has been investigating reported miracles since 1743. It was only in 1959 that Pope John XXIII established set rules for the medical reports responsible for such investigations. And this has undergone several evolutions over time up to 2016, where Pope Francis actually carried out the last revision. And in the course of this session, I will highlight what these new inclusions are. So what's the process of canonization? Within the Catholic Church, it is a highly formal and centralized process. It has to that is seated in the Vatican. And it involves the appointment of a board of independent medical experts. And these are persons who are distinguished and practicing in the field of medicine. They are appointed within the Congregation for the Causes of Saints at the Vatican. This independent medical board has the statutory responsibility to investigate and validate claims of alleged miraculous healings. It is important to also note that their primary role is not to prove that a miracle has occurred. That doesn't come within their body. It's to look at the evidence before them and determine if the cure is inexplicable by current scientific standards or knowledge or natural means. And so you need to look at the two divisions. The issue about proving whether a miracle has occurred goes through theological review, and it's the final decision must be taken by the Pope. So that doesn't fall within the purview of the medical review or the medical board. So their role is to look at the evidence before them and to establish that this miracle is inexplicable, that it cannot be explained by current scientific medical knowledge. So what's the criteria for miraculous healing? There are 6 major criteria. The first of them is that you must establish that this is a serious illness. You're not dealing with typhoid and malaria. Okay? So it's not that someone has typhoid and malaria and they pray, and because you know that people can receive treatment. So it must be a serious illness, and the person suffering from it, possibly a terminal illness, possibly an event that looking at it naturally and scientifically is not possible. For instance, someone does not have an ovary and that person becomes pregnant. So scientifically speaking, you know that this thing was not there. So you must not be serious illness, possibly cancer, and the person recovers. So there are many other categories of illnesses, but it must be serious illness. The second criteria is that it must show complete spontaneous recovery. So the miracle or the healing must be instantaneous, complete, and permanent. So you can see that the criteria are quite strict. The third one is that scientifically inexplicable. That means based on current knowledge. You know that science evolves, but at that particular point in time where the medical world is carrying out their review, available scientific evidence shows that this thing could not have taken place without some external influence or spiritual influence. Fourthly, it must be attributed to single intercession. And here is in relation to that particular individual or case that is going through the process of canonization. So someone makes prayers in relation to Vivian Ogu and prays and that particular miracle. So you must be tied to Vivian Ogu alone or any other person of blessed cancer. Okay? It's very, very important that that prayer is tied and not other factors. So you must attribute it to single intercession. And you must have proper medical documentation. We're going to see this later on in the challenges. This is where we have a lot of issues in this part of the world. That's why many times we don't go through the canonization process because we lack proper documentation. So the medical documentation, which is an extensive review of medical documents, testimonials from patients and the attending physicians before and after the event. And we therefore now conclude that there is no natural scientific explanation for the recovery. So we must have documentation to support that claim. And finally, we have the medical board decision. The medical board, also known as Costa Medical, votes on whether the cure is considered scientifically inexplicable or not. And like I said earlier, the medical board is usually set up when the process of canonization is already in motion. And usually comprises about 7 persons or 6. And so, going with the last review of 2016, you must have a two-thirds majority of votes in favor that this particular event is not medically inexplicable. And so that is 5 to 7 or 4 to 6. Once this goes through, and then now move to the second stage, the next stage of theological review. Theological review, Congress of Bishops, the Cardinals, and the others, and finally the final decision will be taken by the Pope, who has exclusive competence to declare whether the extraordinary event is a true miracle or not. And this is in relation to the report that I gave you. The Pope has exclusive competence to do that. In certain instances, medical miracles could be rejected. It can only be examined again by the same consulting group. And in no case can one report be examined more than 3 times. So once it goes through 3rd review, and the reason why you're having an odd number is that if there's a tie, you can easily break the tie. And so once that goes through the 3rd review, then that particular case may not be able to come up again. And following the last review, it does not apply interactively. So all persons who have passed through the process of canonization successfully will not be revisited. And only takes effect from 2016. What are the challenges of medical certification? It's important to know that the medical certification of miracle during the Catholic Church canonization process stems through a lot of rigorous scientific standards and the need for extensive documentation and inherent difficulty in the proving that an event is inexplicable by natural means. That is in the clear terms. So one of the problems that we face, especially in this part of the world, is that this standard is set up there by Europe and America. And these standards are set based on the existing systems that are there. And so we have this challenge of fitting in, and that's what very Reverend Father said in his earlier presentation. So the strict criteria set up by the church, and what it is that the miracle must be instantaneous, spontaneous, complete, and permanent. It's not like it's got through today, tomorrow goes back to, so it must be complete and permanent and scientifically inescapable. There's another aspect that is really a big problem, and that's the issue of poor documentation. The major challenge that we face within the church and within this part of the world. And so, most times, medical reports are not there, or they are incomplete, or they are poorly written. And so it's difficult for us to work with the existing documents. As I conclude, we have the issue of skepticism, scrutiny, and evolving medical positions that we know because scientific evidence evolves. We have also established that the process is lengthy and it may be difficult to distinguish what natural remission or placebo effect is. So that final decision that a particular event is medically inescapable is quite difficult. In conclusion, the process of canonization is very rigorous and the standards are very high to help minimize subjectivity and enhance objectivity with thoroughness in the decision-making process. Medical certification is an integral aspect of canonization, and the above challenges highlights the church's attempt to use both scientific rigor and theological discernment in its canonization process. Thank you very much.